Hey, it's Steve Zalunardo here with Remax West Zalunardo Associates. This week's episode is based on new construction. If you should be investing money in new construction, we got Mike Batty here naturally, and we're going to hit it off. Mike is a Mr. Construction Man, so let's hear it.
Yeah, so no, just looking at the new construction, what builders are doing in the last 4, 5, 6 months, it seems like obviously they're sitting on the sidelines too, right? The numbers don't make sense for them to put a shovel in the ground to go put in roads and services and create new subdivisions when prices have fallen, right?
So today they're thinking like that. But yesterday when I was saying, why are these builders still buying land at such like they were still buying huge portions of land? And I was like, but I don't know, like, what are they seeing that we don't? You know, there was this whole thing with that.
I think it's the conversations like that we're having with like our people that we associate with, and seeing like struggles that are starting to come into play versus the builders. I think are a little bit lagged and
Out of touch
a little bit. Yeah, like obviously they're going to like high end restaurants and talking to different people, right?
Yeah.
So like their conversations are probably a little different, and where it took a little bit of a lag for them to see it. So I ultimately I think that's what the
I agree.
probably was.
I agree. So it's basically out of touch. Their bubble of people are, you know, everyone's wealthy, buying new cars, new houses, vacations, this whole thing, and it's just like maybe they don't check in the sales office as frequently as they should. And then ultimately, when they start checking the numbers, where it's like, hey, but this site's got to be out of ground. What's going on? Where's the sales? Like,
Yeah.
And then they start. Probably a lot of those builders, those big builders specifically here in Vaughan, are probably going to be stationed more in house right now. I would imagine reviewing things out of like a more hands-on president level than a CFO that kind of oversaw things and had this big machine running. Now they're probably in the trenches with them trying to strategize how not to lose anything going forward. Some of them, I mean, a lot of them have big pockets.
I'm
They don't
sure the
care.
big boys will be the big boys and stay the big boys. And even now with taking this land out of Greenbelt, it's obviously going to help them grow when you buy something for like $10,000-$15,000 an acre, and it's worth $2.2-3 million an acre, which is huge, right? But who else is going to, I guess, handle that kind of like construction? Like, there's only so many people in the areas that can do it. So I get that. Just like moving forward, yeah, I agree. Are they going to have more of a pulse on what's going on? Because like it almost seems like the wine stopped flowing, right? Like when you're a big builder and you haven't sold a house, like, or you sold maybe 5-10 houses in the last 6 months, well, there's going to be a workforce behind all that and a lot of employment that's going to suffer from that. And how long? I don't know when.
5-10 houses, but how many houses do they have to sell? 500? I remember we looked at the site.
I don't remember
that specific builder.
We're
We're trying to see all their projects.
Is it like, I couldn't remember if it was like 100 a month or whatever it was. But
and if they needed 100 a month, they're doing 10 in 6 months.
I don't quote me on those exact numbers, but yeah, like a big builder selling definitely more than 10 houses in 6 months, right? Normally, so ultimately their construction.
But wouldn't they have like, you know, pulled the fire alarm at that time and said, hey, like, holy shit, this is not a blip. This is really something happening.
I don't know, maybe they thought it was 2017 again. Right?
Yeah,
I think it's going to come back.
But 2017 was easy to get out of because they just started printing money and away you went, right?
We did the same thing, I guess. We printed. But
we printed too much.
Yeah, I guess that's the difference, right?
We didn't have inflation like now.
Exactly. Yeah. Like now, I think like it was a little lagging indicator, but now they're seeing the repercussion of it.
The positive thing for big builders right now with heavy pockets still that are all in cash, let's say, is I love to always kind of look at the States because we're like a little country compared to like the United States, and they're at a whole different level. And you know, obviously me being out there and being all things real estate and understanding more of like who the big players are in the real estate game and developers, like during the 08 crisis, like even the site that I bought my investment property, they went through 3 different builders.
Wow.
So it's an interesting story. So when you drive through, and I'll talk a little bit, this is a situation, but we kind of relate it back to Canada. But Portico was that site that I bought my investment property as. It's all very mature. So you drive down that street and it doesn't make sense to me why everything is so mature, because when, look at Verdana, the other house we're getting built now, everything is juvenile, like
new
landscaping.
Trees. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But this is mature. It looks like older parts of like Fort Myers or Estero. So it was always confusing until I got my hair cut by my barber from the Bronx, a Puerto Rican barber from the Bronx, where you normally would get all your information in an area, right? So he's like, the short story is that at the height of the market, 2005, they put the streets in the gatehouse. This is normally what they do. But it's just the process. So even in this market now, where the smaller builders own these projects that people may have bought in new construction that haven't broken ground, that might not be the builder they're going to be dealing with in like 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
So that's just long
look,
story.
Look how long it took. Like obviously Florida got nailed in 2005, 6, 7, 8, whatever it was. Look how long it took for them to actually go from where they started to completing.
100%. But imagine that site just sitting. with 10 houses vacant.
Wow.
And then the barber there that I have cut my hair there in the community, he's moved in there. He was the first resident of the community in 2017. So that house was sitting since '05. So 12 years vacant.
Wow. And that was a model home?
Yeah.
Holy.
So
interesting. Well, and that's another thing. How many like smaller builders now? Like again, the big boys will be fine, but like the small guys like that are like in the middle of a project. He sold them in like 2019, 2020, and now he's building them. Now those guys that bought those projects were purchasing at like a 1.5, maybe 2.5% interest rate. Well, now they got to go pay a 5.5 to 6% rate. And if they have to like requalify, you're requalifying at like 6.5, 7%, right? For that, then you build. How many of those guys aren't going to be able to close? Like,
wow.
And then those builders might be left with that, right?
100%. Well, look at Urban Corp. Back,
that was a disaster.
Same idea, Matt. Yeah. So Elisa, my executive assistant, she bought,
I almost bought the last house in that development.
She did well in there.
Oh, fantastic!
Elisa owns more real estate than realtors in her office.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she's the best. She's awesome. It's true. I always tell her that you know more than the 80% of the realtors here. So Urban Corp goes bankrupt, obviously fraud, a whole bunch of bullshit, not really a good thing.
No, not very ethical.
Ethical, yeah. And then Mattamy ends up buying it and finishing the site. So she originally bought it through Urban Corp, and then Mattamy ends up completing it. So I think that's what we're going to see happen here with smaller builders, where it's like a Mattamy who can say, well, like you build 300-400 houses a year. You have this beautiful like land, like 100 acres, 50 acres developable land, ready to put a shovel in the ground. We'll give you 30-50 cents on the dollar, or we'll buy you up, kind of thing. So and they're buying assets, they're buying land to develop. Yeah, that's good. I'm sure those big boys are sharpening their knives right now.
Oh, they're going to be sitting in cash ready for these developments to be handed over.
But if you're buying a project, you buy it in a separate corporation. So it's like, look at my Boeing project. Treviso owns the property. Boeing 1, Boeing 2. But Treviso owns it, but doesn't own it. So if Boeing 1, Boeing 2 fucking can't, excuse my language, but basically bankrupts or something happens, you can take them. You're not going to affect my company. So these projects, you'll see like Mattamy, the Kleinberg site, the KBS, Kleinberg Summit. So Kleinberg Summit Way or Mattamy, Kleinberg Summit Way in brackets. So that's a separate corporate. It sounds like Mattamy, but that's another corporation, another company. It's arm's length. So if KBS, Kleinberg Summit Way, goes bankrupt, let's just say, for example, he's not going to touch the other projects that are going on. So let's say, for example, the residents of, this lynch mob, they have 200 lawyers that have bought houses in this community, and they're uber wealthy, and they have enough money to fight the builder, which is never going to happen. And now they're bankrupt. The builder's like, well, screw it. I can't. It's not viable. We're getting sued. Let bankrupts it. Let it go. Via.
And then what?
Take it.
The development's gone.
Yeah. They'll buy it through another company at pennies on the dollar, like normally. Yeah. Like, new construction I never liked to begin with, because if I'm an investor, listen, I'm self-employed. I don't go to work every day and I make a paycheck and I have something of security. So for me, it's like, how many deals am I going to do this month? Maybe none. If I do five not go through and I don't get paid. So there's always like that worry in my mind. What I don't like about new construction is the time frame. If I got to wait 2 years to have this project completed, what's the rates? And this is always my worry. And people did really well doing this. Don't listen to me. This is just my European fear in my brain. If we don't know the rates are going to be, we don't know the market conditions, it just keeps moving around. So we don't know. And I don't like not knowing things. So that's why I like to always buy in resale. So even the house in Nobleton, it was 3 or 4 years old. The guy did all the landscape and I paid for it via. But I know I'm closing that property in 2 to 3 months. If something were to happen, like the only thing that can stop that is a nuclear war, like some sort of like, or COVID, or COVID, right? Like some pandemic rather. But other than that, you're fine. Like some people are buying on spec and they're like, wow, that's it. You have no locked in rates. You have no stability. You don't know if you're going to have a job tomorrow, but you're going to lock in. So again, don't listen to me because a lot of people made a lot of money. They're always trading up. So they would buy a house, live for 2 years. They would buy another one at the same time, maybe in the same area or neighborhood in somewhere else. This one locked in at a rate. The market's still going up. Their property's coming up. Boom, they sell that. They get into a better house at a lower price, lower mortgage, and they keep doing. I know there's people that we knew that paid off 7 houses. They paid off. They have no more mortgage. They traded 7. Amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I was. I always feel like I'm behind the 8 ball on this shit. I always feel like I was in construction. It's always like maybe it's just my like carbosh in my own like growth. But it's like I seen these guys. They just kept doing it. Maybe they had better jobs, better opportunities.
And at the time, it was right. Like right now, is definitely not the time to be doing that.
If you want to trade down, you do it now.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed these episodes. Me and Michael will get you on the next episode. Have a great day. Ciao.